So, welcome to another Facebook Live. We're here at the Office of Cable Television, Film, Music, and Entertainment, and it's the agency that supports the creative economy here in Washington, D.C. And so we are going to show you kind of like behind the scenes of how we tape our show. So join us at whatever time you come in. So we're ready. Okay. Welcome to the Sanctuary. You're listening to DC Radio 96.3, HD4, and DCRadio.gov, where we inspire, educate, and empower women of color to unapologetically transform into their most authentic and healthy selves by tapping into the goddess within. I'm Wendy Cherry, your host, and I'm so happy to have you here in the Sanctuary today. So I have a cool guest today, and I've been trying to get her since June. So we finally made it, right?
Finally did it, yeah.
Okay, we have Lucretia here, and she is a wise woman. Doesn't she just look wise? Let's check her out. Okay, wise woman, herbalist, artisan, mother, companion, community garden board member, and owner of the House of Lukaya. And that is an online source for herbal remedies and handicrafts. Her specialties include incense twists, Moontime undies. Moontime undies.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're gonna have to talk about some moontime undies, butter, and all-purpose salves, candles, and custom herbal blends. So in 2015, Lucretia established the DC chapter of Herbalists Without Borders and recently published the House of Lukaya Guide to Nourishing Herbal Infusions. So let's talk about that.
Okay.
It sounds super awesome. So welcome to the Sanctuary.
Thank you so much for having me.
So it's cough and cold and flu season. And I've been getting into, as I'm on my health journey, I've been getting into more natural remedies in addition to food. So besides food, some things that we probably would take for granted in the modern times. So now these are remedies, these herbs and infusions that our great-great-grandmothers did and our ancestors did, right? So we got so fancy that we go to the CVS and Walgreens for everything. And we listen to our doctors, which, you know, there are times when you're supposed to, but when they say you're going to have a cold or that you have a cold and you need a antibiotic,
right,
that's what we've accepted as normal and natural. And we're just here to give you another option to remember what we used to do and to go back and try some natural things. So that's really the intent of what the show is for today.
Yes.
So that's a lot. Herbalist, community mama, community garden, you know, partner. You have a lot going on. So tell us how you got started with being interested in herbs.
Okay. A long and winding road for sure.
Okay.
So I grew up in the suburbs.
Okay.
You know, so I wasn't in the country. I wasn't in the city.
Yep.
But I grew up in a suburb that was built by, I think, a Japanese company. And so the way they did it was they cut out spaces for the houses in the trees.
Okay.
They didn't clear cut and then put houses, you know, lining up with everybody having the same lawn. So a lot of trees around, a lot of running around in the woods.
What is that, in DC area?
No, this was in Virginia.
Okay.
About 20 minutes south of Richmond.
Okay.
Yeah, Chesterfield. So,
okay.
Yeah.
I went to Virginia State. So
okay, that's my dad's alma mater.
Okay.
Yeah, he ties into this story later too.
Okay.
So that's how I grew up, just being outside. Just that kind of childhood where you go outside, don't come in until it gets dark. Flashlight tag, all that. Parents don't know where you are, but they know you're all right. That kind of thing.
Yes.
So then years later, I got into art and went to New York and was doing sculpture there, making clothes there, just living that, you know, artist life.
Yes.
And very much enjoying it. And my dad was sick for a while, and September 11th happened.
Yes.
I had just gotten a job downtown, right where that happened. 3 days prior to that, the only reason I wasn't down there was because 3 days prior to that, my dad passed away.
Oh.
So I had gone to Richmond to be with family and to deal with all of that.
Right.
I saw it on TV.
Right.
Like most other people saw it. So that was game changer.
Right.
That was early 20s,
right.
So for multiple reasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that could be a whole talk in itself. But so that led me to wanting to know something about the September 11th stuff. Didn't feel right. Life just seemed, okay, wait, you need to know more about what's going on. Like,
right.
It's fine that you're over here enjoying life and being an artist and all of that.
Right.
But what about the very simple things of the day to day? What are you eating? I had been vegetarian for 14 years.
Okay.
Ovo-lacto-pesco vegetarian. So
Lord.
There was fish and, right. So there was fish and dairy involved. However, I'd been anemic the whole time.
Right.
So that also started to shift because I started to get more information about complete nutrition, and I didn't want to be taking supplements. And so I wanted to find a way to do it through my diet.
Right.
Found an herbalist, Susan Weed,
yes.
online, connected with her, went and did an apprenticeship.
Oh, wow.
For the years that I lived in New York, after all of that happened, I was going back and forth there. And I continued to mentor with her even to this day. It's like been over 15 years. She's a very committed teacher. So that's how I got started in this tradition that I like to call the wise woman tradition. That's what the perspective she shared, and made so much sense because it's literally that. What have women been doing since the beginning?
Right.
Women all over the world. Whatever your history is,
that's right.
Women all over the world have been feeding their families, going out and gathering herbs. Like, this is nothing new. And so knowing that I could be my own expert of myself, not an expert of everything,
right,
but an expert of myself, which is different than what we were kind of taught as kids, where you go to the doctor, how are you doing? Let me measure this. Let me see this. Let me measure this weight. Let me do, and then you fix something.
Right.
And that's the scientific tradition, which is fine.
Right.
I mean, we need that. We need
it has
studies.
Its place.
Definitely.
Everything has a place.
And that's what was so beautiful to me about this kind of herbal medicine, that it includes everything. It includes surgery if you need it.
Yeah.
It includes drugs if you need it. Yeah. If you got parasites, it's better to take a drug than to try to do it with herbs.
Right.
Because herbs have multiple actions.
Okay.
They don't have one action.
Okay.
And so they're going to go in and do a whole bunch of things, whereas a drug in that case is going to focus
laser
on
focus.
Right.
Okay.
And sometimes that's what you want.
Right.
So that's how I got into all of this, and it's been like I said, winding road.
It sounds like it. So tell me a little bit about like the first time that you used an herb and you saw the benefits.
Nettle.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Back then, I had really bad allergies. I had been one of those kids, Benadryl kids, allergy shot kids, tissue, just a mess, a hot mess.
Right.
And that wasn't doing anything. Getting a shot in each arm every week. Wasn't doing anything other than I had a nice rapport with the nurse. She was funny, but it wasn't changing anything.
Right.
So once I started taking those workshops in upstate New York, I learned about nourishing herbal infusions.
Okay.
And so nettle was the first one that I kind of committed to drinking for a long time. It seemed to call like that particular herb. And we're drinking some today.
Yes, we are.
I had to bring that
Cheers.
One.
So now tell me, when you finish the rest of the story, tell us what nettles are.
Okay.
And where to get them and all that.
Okay. I have some growing in a tire behind my apartment building right now.
Oh.
I like to work with herbs that are so common and so available and to everyone, that you can grow them yourself. I mean, you can order them online.
Okay.
But stinging nettle is an herb that grows, profusely. But so that I drank that for about 3 months. And then once it became my typical allergy season, noticed I wasn't having those symptoms anymore.
Wow. Okay.
Helps harmonize those adrenals, and plus giving nourishment that my body really needed.
Right.
So it can do what it's meant to do, because a histamine response is a normal thing. It's letting you know you're alive.
Right.
However, if it's making it so being alive feels hard,
right,
that's something else to work on, to deal with. So it helps do that.
So the nettles, they are plentiful.
Yes.
Is it plentiful on the East Coast or just
as far as I know, all over? Strangely enough, a lot of the larger herb companies, when you buy them online, because you want to use dried herbs,
nettles.
yeah.
Okay.
So to collect enough for yourself for a year would be quite a bit. I mean, you could grow it in that amount, but the companies order from overseas a lot.
Okay.
Strangely.
Okay.
So, but that's part of the community garden work too, is to have these things growing around here so people can go and harvest them for themselves and actually be around the plant and have that relationship.
Okay. So it tastes good.
Yes.
Yeah, it tastes good.
I think it just tastes like what green is.
Yeah, it tastes like what green is. And so we're used to sugar. We're used to oil.
Yeah.
We're used to salt.
Yeah.
They call it SOS.
Yeah.
Salt, oil, sugar.
Oh,
so
okay.
when we're used to having that as a part of our normal diet, then sometimes if you drink a little green that tastes like green, then it's a little strange.
At first, yeah.
Yeah. So tell me about the community garden. So you started, and then you started to gain momentum. Tell me about the time in between the momentum and then creating a garden, and who is a part of it and who can be a part of it.
Well, when I moved here, because before I moved here, I was in Richmond. I had a house, a yard, so I had my plants all going there, right?
Right.
And also wildcrafting, going out and finding them, growing like out in the parking lot here or next to the parking lot here. There's dandelion, plentiful over there. Okay. It's $4 a bunch at Whole Foods though.
Yeah.
But so, I moved here. I was pregnant, and once I had our son, really needed to find that community, of people who were plant lovers. I needed to get my hands in the dirt. I wanted him to have that, So we were driving by Washington Hospital one day, and I saw Wangari Gardens. Okay. And that was the first community garden I became part of, and I'm still part of. Today I'm actually on their board.
Okay.
And then in the course of being part of that garden, that's when Herbalists Without Borders came to interview someone who was an herbalist. So they picked me, and I got involved with their group. And they're an international organization. Okay. That you can start your own herbal group wherever you are. And so anyone can do that. They have a lot of resources, materials on how to do free clinics and things like that. Okay. Our focus is to have medicinal gardens going at as many places around the city as possible so that people can actually come and be around those plants. So anyone is able to do that.
So I think that we are trained to not pick up dandelions.
Right. Like ooh, what's on it? It's dirty.
Right. Who sprayed something on it? Well, what's all that on there? Right. So I remember, to my mom's chagrin, probably there were lots of dandelions, right around and on her property. And her property is like an acre and a half, right? That's what I grew up on, an acre and a half of property, right? And so in the suburbs, on the cul-de-sac, like the idyllic life, playing with all the kids. And we had all the grass that we had to cut, and the dandelions and all those types of things. What can you tell the listeners so that they would be comfortable? Like, what do you look for? How do you know it's not sprayed? Okay. Like you really can't at this juncture go out and just grab things. Or can you? Because it just depends on...
It depends on some things, definitely. So if you see dandelions growing somewhere, it hasn't really been sprayed.
Okay.
Because they're spraying, if they're spraying an herbicide, they would have killed it because they work. Right. So there's dandelion growth. So a lot of times schools, because they're not spraying like that around kids most of the time, as far as I know. But like I said, if these are technically weeds, right? So if they're growing, then they haven't been sprayed for.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. And then I thought about this going down, George Washington Parkway, how lush and green it is there. It is. Right? How many cars go through there with their exhaust? Right. So what I realize is, plants and us, we're very connected. Like we breathe out and they're breathing in what we breathe out. Right. And we're breathing in what they breathe out. Right. So they're thriving. And that's the other thing. If you see a plant that's healthy, it's in your same environment. Right. So it's going to help transmit that to you, that ability to adapt. Like these are natural adaptogens that don't have to come from far away.
Well, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. And it's important. It's important in food. It is important in herbs now that I'm learning this, because it's sort of like your environment is where you should be getting, where it's more beneficial for you to get the things that you need. So an example, they say for nutrition is to get food from farmers who are 50 miles of a radius from where you are, because you're used to the water, you're used to the environment, the air, and those vegetables and fruit or whatever, that produce would probably serve your body better. So it's the same, because I asked Lucretia for some herbs for myself for different things, right? And I was probably talking about some Chinese herbs because that's what I know.
Well, right. Well, that it's also a thing that's promoted because you have to, and I'm all for people buying things because I have a website. So obviously I understand where we live and we need money. But when you have to always buy, you know, first, as opposed to what is around and available to me first. I think, you know, just that. So
that's
shift.
Local, Yeah. So then you're supporting local vendors, and then you're supporting you're being nourished locally with the things that are around. So those things are important to think about. And even with the seasons changing, and we're in fall, we're in good fall, but we have about a month and something until the winter equinox, the winter solstice, and then the food will change then. So then eating the foods that are kind of like of that season are important to nourish you, because if you look on the bag that you bought or the box that you bought, it'll say it's from.
So all the resources that had to be in play to bring that to you so you can eat this thing that's not in season and not available anywhere you live. Because we do trade, human beings have traded. Human beings have moved around and gotten things from each other, but the process was a little different than what we're doing right now.
It's easy. You can get a piece of fruit that's not even, you know,
would never even grow here. That's the other thing.
Well, that's the other
it wouldn't even grow here.
So in the effort to talk about the herbs, we also want to give tips and little things to think about. So those are little things to think about, and even with your food, like eating what's local, and you can Google it. It's like so simple. Google before you go to the grocery store, what is in season in November.
Or join a CSA.
Now, what is a CSA?
Community supported agriculture.
Okay.
You know, join a CSA because that's a local farmer who's, you know, providing you with a box of food that you pay for yearly or monthly or however they have it set up, and you get what they're growing right then. You get what's available, so you don't even have to think that hard about it.
So Google that in your area, wherever you're listening. If you're in California or wherever, they have to have those
farmers markets. Meet your farmer. Go to the farmers market and meet them and ask to come visit.
So plants, and you said starting your own garden, and you got something growing in the back in the tire. Now that seems so easy. That seems so easy because you're used to doing it. But what about us lay people who go to like the Home Goods and you see the basil in a box? Like they have all that stuff now. They have the herbs in a box, and then they have the little egg carton planters, and you're supposed to go home and, you know, put water on it or do whatever. Now I got a sunflower from Target.
Okay.
And it's just a little pellet, and then I'm supposed to like put water on it, and I didn't do it yet because I feel like I was afraid to do it because I was gonna mess it up, or I wasn't sure what it was gonna look like, and it didn't seem as easy as just adding some water. So what are some tips you can give us who are really interested in maybe starting a little herb garden in our window, or wherever you would suggest, now that it's winter?
Winter can be tricky for that. Winter, you need direct sunlight. In your window if you're gonna do those kind of plants. You know, for now. Or as much light as possible. But don't be afraid to experiment. That's the thing. Like, there is no wrong. That's what's so great about plants. Like there are, you know, plants out there that are poisonous, sure, but again, because we breathe together, it's different than mushrooms. So like a plant that might have a poisonous effect on us is going to let us know that pretty quickly.
Okay.
The way it looks, if you just taste a little bit, you'll know right away.
Okay.
It's different than mushrooms, you know, because they have a different breathing system. But so get something like a pothos. It's not a medicinal plant, but it's a wonderful green. It's more of a tropical plants sometimes do really well indoors because they're used to being covered with all the jungle plants.
Okay.
You know,
yeah.
so they're used to getting filtered light. So those usually do really well. But just get comfort. Find something that, you know, just go to the plant store, see what calls your attention, and really talk to the people there about it, because they love to talk about it.
And, you know, I feel like I hear more people say that I'm not a green thumb than who are a green thumb or who claim to be a green thumb.
You just got to let go of the idea that there's going to be some perfection.
Right.
Which could help in many other areas of life.
Right. So I was that same way. And my friend gave me an orchid.
Oh, okay. See, that would intimidate me. Because they've got that post that's in there, and they're like kind of...
It does all types of things. So I've had the orchid for 2 years. Her name is Vita. And her name is Vita because I didn't know what I was doing with this little plant. And I was just like, let me just water her.
Yeah.
That's about what I'm going to do with her, right? And so I had her for a while, and she was growing. I mean, she was not dying. So not dying is growing, right? Right. So then I go to Asia for 2 weeks, and I put her on the balcony. And I came back, and she was yellow and dry and like just about like this, right? Yeah. Almost done.
Yeah.
So I brought her back in the house, and then I started taking care of her. And then she started to grow. And I was hyped. And I was just like, so then I started to see this little baby bud grow. And as hyped as I got, you would have thought that like...
No, I know the feeling. Trust me. I'm out there taking pictures. I'm so glad there's Instagram now. So
yeah.
But yeah.
And so now she's so vital. Exciting. So that's why I named her Vita, which is life in Spanish, right? Because she's growing, and then she has new little baby buds. And then on an orchid, there's like this little thing that looks like a snake. Yeah. She got 2 now, and they came out of nowhere. Nice. So then that gave me some courage to get some more plants.
There you go.
So then I got a few more. I got like a spider plant, and I had a money plant that I named Monet because I'm trying to get this money.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So I put them in different places in my home, and it brings me so much joy. And just 2 years ago, I said, I am not a plant person. I am not a green thumb. So tell us about the benefits, and I know we were going to talk about this, of just falling in love with plants and how they, like the medicinal properties that they bring and how they clean the air in the home. Tell us about that.
Again, it's with that breathing connection, you know, just the idea that it's showing the diversity of life.
Yes.
In the different species of plants and how they grow together, and watching how they grow together helps kind of parallel human relationships. And so again, like coming to the plants with not the idea of what do you do for me? You know, like you're a living being.
It's an exchange.
It's an exchange. It's a relationship. Just like with people, like you don't want me to come to you and be like, "Whoa, Wendy, what can you do for me?"
Right.
You know, it's like let's get to know each other. Right. Let's be around each other. Let's talk. You know, it's the same exact thing. They don't speak in our language, but they have. You get visuals. Right. You know, you have an understanding, and so just that relationship can be good. And then once you get to even the physical properties, that's a whole
nother thing.
Yeah.
So speaking to the plants, and I know this probably sounds woo-woo, but it's really not. And you know, it's so funny because
George Washington Carver was
George Washington Carver. So every morning when I walk into my living room, I'd be like, "Hey y'all," and I call them by name because I got Vita, I got Africa, and I had this aloe plant, and it had 7 little sprigs. I don't know what they're called, but it had 7 little shoots because I was just like, instead of keep buying this aloe gel, I'm going to have my own.
Just have it when you need it.
So now there's like 12 little sprigs, and it's so big. So at first I named him Finn because 7 is like the ending of something. And now we on 12. So then I had to change it. because that little plant was evolving.
Mm-hmm.
So I walk in, I'm like, hey y'all, hey Vita,
mm-hmm.
hey Spike, because Spike is all over the place. Yeah. And they do respond,
mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not crazy. And you probably heard some of your elders when you were younger, if they had a lot of plants, you probably did hear them saying something to the plants as they were watering them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I grew up watching my mom talking to her plants and being very connected with them. And if a little piece fell off, immediately in some water and roots and then plant it again. That's what I grew up seeing. My grandmother out there every year, because I don't understand people who really love annuals. Maybe one day I will learn. Like perennials that come back and over and over. But she'd be out there planting new ones every year. And
so what is an annual die?
Well, that's also depends because they can sometimes create seeds, drop their seeds, and then come back on their own. But typically, it's like you have to plant it new every year.
Okay. Yeah, that's
supposedly.
That's not a lot of work. Okay. So get you some plants. I don't know where the best place to get plants are.
There are places in town, and I will say, depending on budget, I like to buy from larger nurseries that are local. There's one in Virginia that's not too far from here. So you can actually go there, and it's called Growers Exchange. But that's one, but I'm sure there are many others, but that's been the one because it's nearest to where I'm from. So I was accustomed to that, but they ship as well. And for plants you can't find, there's some on the West Coast, strictly medicinal, I think they're called. But they ship plants that's something you might not find over here. But again, you got to make sure, is it a plant that's going to be happy here? Am I willing to experiment and find out? And
feel comfortable. And then another thing to consider is that because we are surrounded by Wi-Fi all the time, the electromagnetic frequencies that we don't see, it's sort of like having your microwave on and just spraying around in your house. So when your cell phone has an EMF signal, any place that has a Wi-Fi has it, and it affects your body. But some plants cleanse the air. Some plants, help to mitigate some of the damage that you get when you are exposed to that electromagnetic frequency, and they call it pollution. It's EMF pollution. So that's the other reason why I have a lot of plants around. And I'm trying to have a jungle in my
room. You can feel the difference when you walk into a room full of plants and one that is not. I mean, there's definitely a difference.
And I actually put some in my daughter's room. She doesn't do that well with taking care of Patricia and watering Patricia. So I have Patricia now. Grandmama has Patricia now. But I'm trying to find another plant for her to help to mitigate some of that EMF, because she has the smartphone and the smart TV, and she has all those things in her room. Typical teenager. But there are things that you can do to help mitigate some of that damage. So plants is one of them. So you can Google the plants to help cleanse the air, and it'll come up. So those are the things that I'm trying to have around my home, and I do have around my home, just to be healthy and to be vital, and and then I just love getting up and seeing them, and I love that I have to keep putting them in bigger pots. I love that. That's like fun to me.
That green, all those different shades of green. It's amazing.
So you are an artisan. And you also have, what are they?
Moontime undies.
Moontime undies. So let's talk about those Moontime undies.
So those are padded underwear for women, or I'd like to say anybody's that bleed.
Anybody's that bleed.
Anybody's that have babies. Anybody's that might need a little help with incontinence, because they're just a padded regular underwear with padding sewn in. I've been using cloth pads myself since my 20s. It's been a while. And I just noticed that the little bit of cramps that I would have, because I never had really difficult ones, but
lucky you.
Well, that's a whole other bigger conversation too. but that also kind of helped reduce that. I like it to flow. It allows flow. You have to definitely change your view of how you manage that time, because you have to be more prepared in a different way. I'll say more prepared, just prepared in a different way, depending on lifestyles.
Yes. So you sell those?
Yes, I have an Etsy shop for those and my regular website.
Okay.
Has those too.
So cloth pads for women, for those bodies that bleed. Yes. Okay, I like that. So I've tried them. Okay. And I've tried different versions of them.
You've tried the snap-in ones?
Yes.
Okay.
I've tried the snap-in ones, but I'm about to try me some moonlight.
Yeah. Well, because I was using those, and those are cool too. I mean, I like them too, but they move around. This way, it's just putting on your underwear and go.
Right.
You know?
Right. So there are people like Lucretia was talking about that when the pads that are the traditional pads that you get from CVS, Target, Walgreens, and all those places, they are infused with all types of stuff that we don't know.
Right, different materials.
But different materials
close to your body, for periods of time.
Right, and one of the things is bleach. That's why they are so white. Right. That's why they're so white. Right. So I was just exploring and investigating different ways to not have that so close to me. And then I have a baby, the Sid. So she's, cycling too. And so we tried those pads. And it definitely requires a different kind of a way to manage yourself. Yes. Because you have to wash them out. Yes. You have to put them in the washing machine.
You have to bring enough with you.
And then you have to be able to, you have to also have a bag to put them in if you're going to change. Yes. So there's lots of other things to go with it. But, I can't imagine that disposable pads came in 40s and 50s. So I feel like maybe that's around the time they came. Probably. So what were our grandmothers doing before that anyway? Right. So it's then, again, getting back in touch with yourself in another way. Now, depending on how your moon cycle flows, it might be a little overwhelming to deal with it. Right. But if you have a decent flow that maybe is not so heavy, it might be something to consider. So they have them all over, but they have on houseoflukaya.com for you to check it out and just see and just try something new, because you probably would benefit from not having the bleaches and those things so close to your body. And then the other thing is there are some pads that are made that are infused with herbs.
Yeah, I haven't seen those, but someone recently mentioned to me that there were these, I think they're disposable pads, but that they're infused with essential oils, which I'm not thinking is a good idea in that area. But I want to see what you mean about the herbs. The ones infused with herbs.
So we have bought those. Okay. We've bought the ones that have the herbs infused. And one of the herbs is lavender. And so my daughter is allergic to lavender.
But it's lavender essential oil or lavender, the actual herb?
I think it's herb, because it says herb infused. It doesn't say essential oil infused. So it's just a pad. You don't even see anything different. It doesn't look like any other pad that you've seen in any store. But on the package, it says that it's infused with these other things. So like pain relief.
Interesting.
Yeah, some other things. So we tried them. And because she's allergic to lavender, we couldn't, couldn't move forward. Right. So just ways that herbs are used and just other ways for you to consider that going back to more a natural home remedy, the opportunities are out there. Because people are moving toward it. Yes. I mean, people are really starting to want to get this information to do something different, because what they've been doing really hasn't been working, or they're just open to trying new things. So I love that. So as an artisan, what does that mean?
An artisan, I like that word more than artist. It makes more sense, because it reminds me of literal, like, an artisan makes a table. An artisan makes a chair, a bowl, things that you use in your daily life. And I believe that's what artists come from too. They were part of the community and utilizing their skills and their different way of connecting with creation to serve the whole community. And so, for instance, the incense twist, is something I make with my hands, as an artisan. All of the herbal products I make with my hands. It's very handcrafted oriented. Okay. Clothing, the noontime undies. That's mostly what I sew these days. But in the past, I have been sewing clothes and different things.
So is this this is what you do full time.
Yes,
You
besides
create-
full-time mom.
Well, right, yeah. That's a whole.
That's the new full-time. But
Right.
this is what, yes, I was doing full-time. And I worked at a health food store for a few years and was doing kind of on-the-spot consultations, in addition to, the regular duties of working there. But that was an interesting process as an herbalist, definitely having people come in so quickly, needing this or that, and steering them towards, here's the dried herbs over here,
right.
as opposed to the herbs and pills, because you're going to find a different benefit from that.
So tell us the different benefits. So you can find them dried.
Yes.
And then you can find them in pills. Yes. And then tinctures.
Yes.
So what are, and then there's must be more. Tell me what they are.
Well, so depending on how you're going to use it, like for instance, this motherwort here, it's probably hard to see, but I'm holding a jar of motherwort tincture, and I used fresh motherwort for that. You want to use, when you're making tincture, fresh plant material for the most part. When you're using roots, berries, seeds, you could use dried in that situation. So I have two examples. Like this is an echinacea tincture I just made last night, and that's with dried.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what would you do with this?
Now that's going to be something, if I feel something coming on, sinus infections, we've used it for, to counter those. You're taking a dropperful, like 2 to 3 dropperfuls every hour, every 2 hours. Oh yeah, it's a lot more than
like take it for 12 hours and then don't take it again.
Right, you want to see a change before, and it depends on body weight, how many dropperfuls you want to take. And I get into the nuances of all these things in my workshops and things like that, classes and things. But so the motherwort also helps reduce cramps, menstrual cramps. It's a heart strengthener. So those are the ways you can use those. I have the elderberry tincture here. That's an antiviral to help counter colds and flu, preventative, and also if something's already going on.
So let's talk about cold and flu.
Yeah.
Because that's the time. This is the time. Yeah. And one of my besties has done everything that she knows to do naturally to get rid of something that she had. And then she just wound up having to go to the doctor yesterday because it didn't work.
Right.
So what could we be doing before we get to that point? What can we do to bolster our immune system? Right. And what do you suggest that we can come up with to help us?
So I want to say, as far as herbs and pills, I want to be clear at least about my perspective on that, that I feel like they are the most expensive and potentially more dangerous way to engage with herbs.
Pills and
in herbs and pills.
Herbs and pills.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because one, you're we're not knowing, unless of course you're making it yourself. You're getting it from someone who's making the pill for you. We don't know in these little bottles how long those have been there. Once an herb is dried and exposed to air, it's losing its potency. All of that, and all of the studies where they find like, oh, this plant or this herb did this negative thing, they're talking about herbs and pills. They're not talking about an herb that's being used in its more whole form, where either you're making an infusion of it with water or with vodka, which is the tincture. Or you can make a syrup and add honey, that kind of thing. But you're using more of the whole plant, and your body actually can interact with the plant differently than when you swallow a pill and it's going to your stomach.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Okay. So I'm thinking of
encased in something.
I'm thinking of like all the Whole Foods and like the health food stores here in the area and in every area where you see all these pills lined up and it says these herbs, and I feel like I would feel safe because I'm at the grocery store and at the health food store and the lady helped me find it. Right. And so from your perspective, you have found in your years of doing this that maybe in some cases it hasn't been the best reaction. Right.
And some study, like I said, for when we look at studies of it, they're doing studies on dried herbs and pills. So you can find, but then that often makes it seem like the plant itself is problematic.
Right. Versus the way that they treat whatever
it's the way they're using it, or they're either pulling something out of it, one part of the plant. Right. And then synthesizing that And that can be, it's not how we're meant to interact with them.
So how are we meant to interact with them?
I think like food, and I deal with food like herbs for the most part. And again, there's place for every kind of medicine. So when you have to go into stronger acting, more stimulating or sedating herbs, when that's needed, it's needed, but for the most part, and like you were talking about preventative ways, then dealing with plants as food, your food is your medicine. We have these wonderful systems in our bodies that are meant to eat food, and so I like to deal with plants in that way, and that's how it's been the most beneficial. I mean, drinking herbal infusions every day, for the most part, for the last 20 some years, I get a sniffle. I get sniffles like everybody else. Like it's good to be alive and know that you react to different things in your environment. But I don't have this sense of myself that I feel my body working, the way it's supposed to work. And I feel like when we deal with food like herbs and we have a relationship with them, then we are able to prevent a lot of things that come up because we're not prepared.
Okay. So let's talk about, so this is a quick little funny little anecdote. My doctor, I have a holistic practitioner here in Washington, D.C., and we were talking about herbs and Chinese herbs specifically. She said, I can't read the bottle, so I'm not taking it. I don't know what
that's
is.
Probably smart.
So
you don't know what
that like hit me because I'm thinking, I do acupuncture and I do those things, and then that's what they give you. Right.
Well, and so combinations. So I had an acupuncturist recently tell me this beautiful thing about, I took a workshop with him, he's local, that, you're picking different ingredients and they're each a note and you're making a song. And I think that's a beautiful sentiment. The only thing before that, though, that's what I mean about having relationships with plants, is that if you deal with a simple, which means one plant at a time, then you know how you and that plant get along.
Right.
Before you start, because when you're dealing with a combination and something happens, whether it's good
and you won't
or not good, you don't know why that happened. Right. So next time you need it, you got to go to that person. You got to take that thing. If it works for you, you can't do it yourself. You're definitely going to have to go and get it. And what if that person stops making it?
Right.
What if it's not available? Then you don't know what in it was actually helpful for you. So if you start off by, and again, with the infusions, you're drinking one at a time. You're drinking oat straw one day. You're drinking red clover one day. So you get to really see what that feels like. Okay. And then if you need a tincture isn't something, most of them, well, I don't say most, some of them it would be something you take as a tonic, like a daily thing, like hawthorn tincture, for example, another heart strengthener. Harmonizes the blood pressure. Like if your blood pressure is too high, it helps lower it. If it's too low, it helps raise it. Okay. That's something you can take every day. Hawthorn's in the same family as cherry. Okay. So and roses, right? That's food. Yeah. But then there's other plants, like echinacea. It's not something you want to take every day. It's when you know something's going on. Right. That's when you bring echinacea in and you take that tincture every day, all day, until you feel a change and you feel your symptoms alleviating.
Gotcha. So you talked about being self-reliant. So like, I got my herb man, right? And then they move. Right. And then what you going to do? Right. So I think it's important. This is what I want to ask, like suggestions for your cabinet. Like how we talked about empowering ourselves and empowering ourselves to be able to create these things and get in touch with our bodies so our bodies can tell us what we like and what we don't like, what it likes and what it doesn't like, and it will, so that we can, create a self-care regimen for ourselves and for our families. So what do you have a 5-year-old? Yes. What does he do? 5, What does he drink every day, or what do you give him to help him? He is so stubborn, but shout out to Kiyoshi, but he loves water, but I mean, but my thing is, I'm not a huge fan of just plain water. I like infusions. I'd rather drink them than water any day. Okay. But I sneak them, and he'll listen to this maybe years later, but I sneak them into his lentils.
and his sweet potatoes.
Okay.
So that's how
However
he's
it gets
them.
in there.
Oh yeah.
I might need to do that for Sydney. Okay,
yes,
we'll
along
talk.
with like lots of cooked greens, and so then the water from those gets put in his lentils.
Okay.
He's very visual. Right
okay.
Now. So he's got certain things. I know he likes a lot of oranges, but anyway, yeah.
So that's what
he drinks water and he gets infusions without knowing it.
Okay. Now, does he go to public school or is he just at home?
No, we're homeschooling.
Okay, homeschooling.
Yeah,
so his immune system is probably not as compromised as it would have been had he been out in school.
I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, he's out a lot.
Okay.
You know, he's outside a lot because we're doing this plant thing, and we take him. You know, he's our only child, so we take him everywhere we go. So he's around all kinds of people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
So, and what is your self-care regimen? Like, so say, what do you do now that we're in fall, winter, that is different than you do in the August of, the summer?
Lately it's just adding dandelion tincture a little bit more. So before I eat, dandelion tincture help my liver do what it does.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm all, like I said, herbal infusions, that's a daily, every day, any season, whether you're feeling great or not. They are foundational for me.
Okay.
And they have been, yeah.
So now our bodies are bio-individual, which means everybody's body's different based on the environment they were raised in. Actually, the environment of their mom's womb. It gets that specific, depending on how your mom felt, what she was thinking, if she was smoking, if she was so excited that you were there, or if she was mad that you were there. All of those things have something to do with how you will interact with food and how you will interact probably with these herbs and things like that. So it's very important, in my opinion, that we become in touch with our bodies and become that we have a good relationship with our bodies and have a good relationship. I'm not talking about do you like the size or the shape, because that's something you still have to do too. Right. What I'm talking about is when it tells you something for us to trust enough to listen to it. Yeah. So you were talking about if you take a certain herb in this form and you do interact positively with it or negatively, you would know that. So give us some tips, because we have about 15 minutes left. Okay. Some tips that we could maybe start to grow in our homes. And even if you think that there's not enough sun right now, even for the spring, because this is evergreen, so people will always hear this. Oh, yeah. They can pick it up. And what do you think are the easiest things on the East Coast to start to try with? Okay. And then what are some of the interactions or reactions that the body gives, so you'll know if it's doing good or bad? So I have an example of a good or bad. So I'm detoxing now. I sit in the sauna. I do all types of stuff, but my face is breaking out because the toxins are coming out. So it's not that I'm not doing it correctly. I know what my body needs. It's time for a detox. And so I'm doing it, but I'm seeing it on the outside. So you would think that I don't look a certain way because I have all these.
I'm not saying it.
I'm having these like little things on my face, but I know what it's from. Okay. So now I've come to know that's what it is. Okay. Right. Okay. So what can we do to start off real easy breezy so that it's not overwhelming and it's not like another, oh Lord, this is another to do that I have to do, but to make it fun to start trying to figure out some of these things for ourselves, at least for this season, so that we can start to give it to our kids and have them be excited about it too.
Well, I would say get yourself some elderberries. Have dried elderberries in the house, because you can always make an infusion pretty quickly with that. And if you want to take the extra step to make a syrup with that, that's a possibility. But having the actual dried plants in the house, each of the ones in the guide you mentioned, have those around to make those infusions on a regular basis. Plants to grow, sage, garden sage, because that's a great one, pretty easy to manage. It goes over winter. You can leave it outside over the winter. So if you have outside space at all, it's fine to leave it there.
Okay.
But you can chop that up, fill up a jar with those fresh leaves, and you can get garden sage at the grocery store right now too.
Yeah, I see all of that.
So you can do it that way too until you
Okay.
can get the plant. Cover that with honey, stir it up, make sure it's all completely covered, and leave that. And in 6 weeks, you've got something you could take a spoonful of, put it in your cup, and pour boiled water over it, and you've got a sage honey tea ready to go. And you can eat and chew up the sage while you're drinking it. You know,
Okay.
great for sore throats and anything going on respiratory. Slippery elm powder. Have that in the house because you can mix that with honey and make it into little balls that you suck on. If someone's feeling nauseous or having digestive issues, it's great for kids, but I love them too. I've been wanting to be really extra nice to my intestines because it's been very visual to me about what goes on when you have a baby.
Oh, yeah.
I've been thinking about that a lot more.
Okay.
Like where they go and where everything gets moved. And I was like, I'm so sorry I wasn't nicer to you and didn't think about all of that.
No clue.
So I've been taking slippery elm ball one a day, just to be like, you know, I recognize you in the service you give me, and I just want to thank you for that.
Right.
But it's also helpful if you do have digestive problems.
So I do. So let's talk about digestion.
Okay.
And what are those things? So slippery
elm powder. Yes.
And I can make a ball with.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then these recipes are on your website, or
they
you do
are,
workshops?
And I do workshops, and I do them one-on-one. You can get a group of friends and bring me over, and I'll bring the materials, and we can make them together, and you can leave with some. Yes. We'll do it. Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that sounds fun. Anything else for digestion? Because I have tried teas, and I have.
Do you like vinegar?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can make vinegars with many fresh plants as well. So you get the added benefit. I mean, you know, apple cider vinegar by itself is good on its own. But I mean, you can add certain different plants to it. You can make a mint vinegar. I made a vinegar with some plums from the farmer's market.
Oh, wow.
Anything. That's a good thing to experiment with too. Again, because there's not going to be any wrong. You know, and you already know that the vinegar is helpful.
Right.
So you can put a spoonful on your greens, put it in beans you're making, and get it that way. That helps pull out more minerals from all your food.
It's interesting because when you think about just nutrition, because my foundation is nutrition, right? And so when I think about people say, just eat fresh fruit and vegetables. That's what they say, right? Excuse me. And so I've done that forever. And then I was looking 4 months pregnant.
Okay.
But what I realized is that for my body, once I started to listen to my body and see the reaction of the body after I ate all them Brussels sprouts and cauliflower, is that it's not digesting for me. So what I have started to do was to go and look at a more Ayurvedic way to heal myself and to select foods. And in Ayurveda, I am a Vata, V-A-T-T-A. And in that body type, there are 3, Kapha, Vata, and I forget the other one, Pitta, right? Is that I'm usually not good with cold food. And I'm usually needing my food cooked. Because then you have those people who say, well, I'm a raw vegan, and I'm a raw this, and then they're cool.
Can I recommend a YouTube video?
Sure.
on that topic of cooked and raw?
Yes.
Without getting all into it.
And we will put it in the show notes.
Okay, cool. It's called now I'm going to forget the title, but it's the raw versus cooked debate. Okay. I think that's how it's titled on YouTube. And there's a lot of great information in that. It's about an hour and a half or so.
So once I stopped just eating I'm talking huge bowls of salad, because raw salad, because that's what I was told.
Dressing on it or anything?
I mean, yeah, I would do like vinegar,
but a little bit.
Yeah, like lemon and vinegar and whatever, you know, but no creamy nothing. Okay. None of those types of things. And then my stomach would be like, what in the world?
What have you done?
And so then at first I just normalized it because I'm still getting my fresh fruits and vegetables. Right. So it's one of those things where it's important to know your body. Yeah. So since I stopped eating those big bowls of salad and then I started cooking my food a little bit just to give it a little help with the digestion. And then it's fall, winter, and then it's like your body doesn't necessarily want cold,
Right.
Icy, crunchy salads at this point. You know, that's kind of like. So now I'm with the soups and the warming things and the teas and all those kinds of things. So that's just an example of learning your body and not going with the status quo.
Definitely.
Because everybody says just get your fresh fruit and vegetables.
Right.
I have a lot of friends who are raw and they will swear by it because of bio-individuality.
Because it works for them.
It works for them,
right.
but it doesn't work for me.
Right.
And so it's one of those things that I think it's important to note here and to put a pin in for everybody to really just start to think about.
Right.
You know, I'm going to try lots of these different herbs, and I have been trying them, and they have been helping with some of the issues that I have experienced. But I want to delve into it, and then I want to be my own herbal lady. You know, at some point,
Everyone
I have
should.
the space.
Yes.
I have the space,
Yes.
so I want to learn how to create these items and create this medicine for myself and for my family and for whoever wants it. So, you know, that's my little soapbox moment.
Yeah.
I'm jumping off the soapbox.
Well, but you know, but that's the thing with the infusion, like you said, you know, you recognized how the cold salads were feeling as opposed to the cooked food, but it's like, that's the difference between tea and infusion. Infusion, you're steeping for 4 hours or more.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And the reason is it takes 4 hours at least to pull minerals out of a plant with water.
Okay.
So same goes for cooking your food and cooking your vegetables. Because, I mean, different vegetables, different amounts of time. But if you're talking collard greens, like an hour or more, you know, to really pull out that nutrition. And, you know, again, if people want studies, they're out there.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not that into them, but, you know, I like to go from personal experience. I know what feels good in my body, like you said.
Right.
However, it's out there of how much, you know, of this mineral or this vitamin you get, you know, in a raw food versus a cooked food.
Gotcha. Well, that's interesting. Just really something interesting to think about. So let's hear how people can find you.
Yes. Online, houseoflukaya.com, HOUSEOFLUKAYA.com.
Okay.
And then everything else is House of Lukaya. Twitter, Instagram, I don't use it very much, but Instagram is a good way. It's my preferred way.
Instagram
these
is
days.
your preferred way.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm very visual. I enjoy that. But Facebook also, House of Lukaya.
Okay.
Is the business.
And it's in the show notes. I have tagged you there.
Yeah.
So now, tell us about your workshops and how often do you have them? I know you said that we could hire you to do like individual ones, but how often do you have them and kind of like what do people get?
I'm trying to do something at least once a month.
Okay.
You know, and right now I have people ask me to do things, and then I'm going to be planning some soon as well, along with all the other things now that the garden season has quieted down.
Okay.
Because once it's spring, summer, it's just outside. So it's kind of like come to a garden work day and we'll talk and we'll learn and we'll do things while we're also working on the gardens because it's so important to keep that consistency with those. But in a workshop, you're going to get you're definitely going to get infusions. You're going to be tasting those depending on the topic of the workshop because there might be a specific one. Doing one at a capoeira event this coming weekend. Okay. And so it'll be focused on joint health, you know, that kind of thing. But so we'll have infusions for that. I'll talk about different topical oils you can make with fresh plants that you can infuse. So I try to have it so someone can take something away with them. Yes. Physically. You know, either we'll make tinctures. You were at a workshop at Rissy's, right? Where we made tinctures. And you could take those home with you. And 6 weeks later, you got medicine you made. Okay. So look up Lucretia at House of Lukaya. Look at all of her, you know, all the options that she has, the recipes that she has. She sews too. She got the moon undies, get you some. You know, just be open to exploring some new things and new ways to like be able to move and heal and kind of like taking the power back to ourselves on ways to nourish ourselves. Exactly. So with food, with spirit, with herbs, with relationships, with laughing, with everything. Those are just ways to nourish ourselves. And so get you some plants and then talk to them and then name them. And I even hear you can play them some music. I was just thinking dance with them. You can play them some music and dance with them. So
We thank you so much for being here in the sanctuary. We look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you to all of the Facebook Live people who joined us, and we'll see you next time. And thank you, everybody. See you next time.